Since 2021, there have been 9 NBA teams that have not made an appearance in the NBA playoffs. The Cavaliers, Hornets, Kings, Magic, Pacers, Pistons, Rockets, Thunder, and Spurs. Each of these 9 teams over the past 2 seasons have been in their very own rebuild, trying to retool their roster to compete in their respective conferences. But how well have each of these teams set up their future for their franchise? Today, I'm going to rank all 9 teams based on their current talent, assets, and overall potential for the future years to come. I'll do that by taking into account each team's future draft picks, financial flexibility, a potential core, and much more. Let's get right into number 9 in my ranking, the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are last on my list because they're entering this season as the very first year in their complete rebuild. San Antonio traded their former All-Star guard DeJounte Murray for the breakout season last year to the Atlanta Hawks for 4 first-round picks, which is going to give the Spurs more capital to make roster moves during the season and potentially when the NBA draft comes up in June for the next few years. The Spurs also don't have much money on the books for the next few years, which also creates opportunity for San Antonio to take on bad contracts and gain some more assets from other teams. However, the Spurs compared to the other 8 teams on my list lack heavily when it comes to talent across the board, especially in young talent. Keldon Johnson is a bright spot and an efficient young scorer in the league, and drafting Jeremy Sochan in the 2022 NBA draft should be a piece to help the Spurs on the defensive end. But the Spurs still need to figure out their core and have a long way before they're dominating anything in the near future. At number 8, I have the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers are 8 on my list, but have already started a rebuild back during the trade deadline of last season. Trading for Tyrese Halliburton was a great move. He's one of the best young guards in the league and a good player to help run the Pacers offense. Former rookie Chris Duarte showed that he has great promise on the offensive end with extended range, and I love the addition of drafting swingman Ben Mathurin, who can share the backcourt with Tyrese as well. The Pacers also have a lot of flexibility financially, as they're not anywhere near the salary cap max, and also own all of their picks till 2029. One thing to watch for with the Pacers is that they're able to trade away Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, who many championship aspiring teams are trying to acquire. Talent-wise, like the Spurs, the Pacers may not be the best team on my list, but they most certainly have the ability to gain more assets and flexibility while not affecting the young core that they already have. Coming in at number 7, and this may shock a lot of people, but I have the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets may have finished with an above 500 record last season and improved with 10 more wins compared to the 2021 season, but I think this team has hit a ceiling from the looks of it. A lot of this is due to the Charlotte Hornets not being able to make any moves this offseason due to Miles Bridges' legal issues that may lead to him possibly being suspended from the NBA for a longer tenure time. Along with less than adequate flexibility currently, the Hornets are paying close to $55 million just to Terry Rozier, who will be an unrestricted free agent in 2026, and Gordon Hayward, who's been dealing with injuries since he's joined the team in 2020. The Hornets' only bright spot is that LaMelo Ball is a franchise caliber star and can raise the floor for his teammates as long as they're available on the court. Now, if the Hornets are able to overcome the Bridges situation, possibly add an all-star caliber player next to LaMelo, and move some of these bigger contracts off the team, then maybe the Hornets can change the potential outlook of this franchise. However, this team currently looks like it's going to be fighting for a playing spot as of right now, and that's their ceiling. At 6, I have the Orlando Magic. Orlando at 6 may look odd, but this team is in a very good situation going forward in their rebuild, especially with the addition of the number 1 overall pick, Paolo Banchero. The Magic have solid young players like Wendell Carter Jr., Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, and Franz Wagner, who was one of the best rookies last season, was very underrated. Add in Jalen Suggs, who will look to improve from his rookie season last year, and the Magic have a pretty interesting young group of guys to be excited about, led by Paolo. I think if Jonathan Isaac and Mo Bamba are able to avoid the injury bug, they can actually raise the ceiling for this team on defense. Both guys, whose contracts are partially guaranteed and allow the Magic to still be flexible with their roster if necessary. The only thing I'm cautious about with Orlando is their salary cap flexibility. They could possibly create $60 million in cap room next offseason, but that could change if they fully guarantee the contracts of players like Mo Bamba, Jonathan Isaac, and Gary Harris. Just something to be on the lookout for this upcoming season, but the Magic still own all the draft picks for years to come and have a very solid young squad. Coming in at number 5, I have the Houston Rockets. The Rockets are a very exciting and surprisingly lucky franchise. Not many teams are fortunate enough to trade their franchise superstar and still be able to have one of the most promising young cores in the NBA within 2 years. Jalen Green looks like a franchise cornerstone and can be an efficient offensive scoring machine for the Rockets for years to come. Add in Alperen Şengün, who looks like one of the better playmakers at the center position, and not to mention rookie Jabari Smith looks like the cornerstone for the future of the Rockets defense, who can also stretch the floor. I haven't even mentioned other promising players like Josh Christopher, Tari Eason, Jayshawn Tate, and Kenny Martin Jr. the Rockets also have so much flexibility going forward financially and can make adequate moves in the upcoming offseason and seasons to come. Kevin Porter Jr., who I expect to have a career year, is the only question mark for the Rockets to figure out this offseason, determining the financial details and length of the extension he might receive. Even with that, the Rockets still hold the Brooklyn Nets draft picks due to the 2020 James Harden trade that could potentially net the Rockets an all-star caliber player the moment they decide to shop those picks for a star to pair with Jalen Green. The only thing that the Rockets have to be wary of is that the Oklahoma City Thunder have the rights to the Houston Rockets picks in 2024 and 2026 if they fall outside the top 4, meaning the Rockets by 2024 should have a squad ready to compete for a playoff spot. At number 4, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. OKC's young talent is headlined by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's one of the most underrated guards in the league because he's in OKC. A lot of attention isn't brought to him, but I'm telling you, he has superstar potential, and if he was on any other team that won more games, he'd be an all-star consideration. Lou Dort, who the Thunder just re-signed, is young and looks like a solid defender that can add on the offensive end as well. And you can't forget to mention former rookie Josh Giddey, who I think is one of the best young passers in the NBA. Chet Holmgren, the number 2 overall pick from the 2022 draft, will miss the entire season due to an injury, but is going to fit in like glue next year for the Thunder with his defensive prowess and unique scoring ability as well. OKC still has more solid young talent like Trey Mann and rookie Jalen Williams. Now I'll say this, I personally think you can make the case that the Rockets or even Magic, from a talent standpoint, are possibly better than the Thunder current core. But what puts OKC slightly above all these other teams on my rankings is the plethora amount of draft capital the Thunder have. They have multiple first-round picks in every year until 2028, and these assets are what is used to close on trades and make moves that can improve your roster. Partially owning the Rockets picks who are in a rebuild also gives OKC a slight edge. OKC's financial books may look high, but they have the ability to acquire a star caliber player if they trade away the many players they'll potentially draft and no longer need throughout the rebuild. The only way OKC could be set back in the rebuild is that they potentially have to trade away SGA, which could occur if OKC doesn't become a competitive team in the next few seasons. Answering at number 3, I have the Detroit Pistons. Detroit at number 3 was a tough decision, but out of the last 4 teams that I mentioned, the Pistons really look like the most promising team as of right now. The backcourt contains Cade Cunningham with a stellar rookie season and looks like a promising offensive engine for Detroit, and also features new rookie Jaden Ivey, who is explosive on offense with his athleticism and ability to attack the rim. Then you have players like Saddiq Bey, who have been a solid 16-point per game scorer while stretching the floor for Detroit, Marvin Bagley, who was added last year at last year's trade deadline, who seemed to look like a positive player on offense for the Pistons. And Detroit still features younger talent that all have strengths that cater in different areas of the game. Solid veterans who are on expiring deals that can be moved, such as Kelly Olynyk, Nerlens Noel, Kemba Walker, and Alec Burks. Plus, Detroit still has cap room for the next few years to add a big free agent if the young core develops promisingly. I think the Pistons are in the best situation you can be in a rebuild despite not being a playoff contending team yet, but the cards are in their favor. All the right moves have been made, and I think Detroit basketball will be back much sooner than later. Now, the final 2 teams are teams that I believe are gunning to make the playoffs this year. At my runner-up spot, I have the Sacramento Kings. The Kings have technically been rebuilding since 2007 and haven't made the playoffs since 2006. I made a video about their 16-year playoff drought on my channel that you should check out. But the Kings currently have their best roster since then and have a squad that I can see making the playoffs if everything clicks. De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis isn't a bad pairing, and both share all-star capabilities with their skill sets on offense. Number 4 overall pick Keegan Murray could turn out to be better than expected, and with a lesser role on offense behind Fox and Sabonis, Murray could strive with the defense having to focus on those two, creating opportunities for himself to shine on offense. Free agent additions like Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk are good pieces to add to a team that lack consistent offensive power. And the Kings still have their rookie from last year, Davion Mitchell, who broke out near the end of the last season. Factor in Harrison Barnes, Rashawn Holmes, Alex Len, and the Kings have a team that should be at least in conversation for the play-in tournament if everything falls to place. The Kings also own their first-round draft picks for the most part and can still use that to make additions or acquisitions for the franchise. But expect the Kings to have a much more competitive season and possibly playing basketball in April if they put it all together. And finally, at my number 1 spot, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. This comes as a no-brainer as the Cavs are one of the most surprising teams from last year. If not due to multiple injuries near the end of last season, the Cavs would have not relegated into entering the play-in tournament but have clinched a playoff berth. Jared Allen and Darius Garland were both All-Stars last season, and Evan Mobley looked like the runaway candidate for Rookie of the Year. That core alone is already the strongest out of all the teams that I mentioned, not to include role players such as Karis LeVert, Kevin Love, Isaac Okoro, Shetty Osman, and Lauri Markkanen, who each can affect the game in one way or another. Despite partially owning their first round draft pick in 2023, the Cavs own all of their first round draft picks till 2029, while having a little room to improve their roster after next year. Not to mention, the Cavs still have Colin Sexton, who can return on a qualifying offer, which can make the Cavs much more deep and young for the future. I fully expect the Cavs to make the playoffs and possibly be a team you don't want to sleep on when the postseason begins. What do you guys think? Let me know your rankings in the comment section and your thoughts as well. This video took a lot of research and time, so I'd appreciate if you left a like as well on the video. Be sure to subscribe and turn that post notification bell on so you don't miss a video. Until next time, stay on beat.